I feel like my purpose is to help people live a more confident and joyful life. You know, so helping people essentially, I guess you could say, help people to maximize their potential, because I feel like everyone has this incredible potential, but sometimes the environment limits you, you know, the challenges, the personal circumstances. And so I just feel like if I had no restrictions, no limitations, nothing was stopping me, and you know, I was asked to do only one thing ever for the rest of my life, it would be to say to you, to say to the next person, to say to anybody, women, men, children, you can absolutely do it. You can do much more than you're currently doing.
Udo Okonjo, international lawyer and astute real estate entrepreneur, is currently the Chief Executive Officer and Vice Chairman of Fine and Country West Africa. She also serves as an independent director and chair of Governance and Remuneration Committee on the board of the CAP PLC, a subsidiary of UACN PLC, one of Nigeria's oldest and largest publicly listed conglomerates. But what is more profound is where she got her drive for excellence.
Believe it or not, young Udo was extremely shy. Yes. Now, when people see me interact, they can't believe how shy I was when I was a kid. I was really shy. But I also grew up in a very loving family, a big family. Loads of sisters and brothers, 9 sisters, 6 brothers.
Wow,
yes.
That's a huge family.
A big, massive family. But I guess by Nigerian standards, you know, it's somewhat standard, at least, you know, in our circles at the time. 2 mothers, you know, in the house, yes, my mom and my stepmom. And then, of course, I had, you know what, 9 sisters, 6 brothers, you know, parents. And my dad was a judge. He was, you know, a judge in the Federal High Court. We moved around quite a bit. We lived in Kano. We lived in Lagos, we lived in Benin City, and then I went to Federal Government Girls College, a girls, you know, boarding school in Edo State, now Edo State at the time, Bendel State. But yes, my childhood was very, was very interesting. In a house with so many girls, and my father was a nationalist in a sense, because he made us, you know, sing the national anthem every day when we were at home, yes. Wow. And say the pledge, you know, every morning and every evening when we were home. So it was it felt really like a mini boarding school. And yeah, I mean, I have very fond memories of living in Kano especially. Yeah. Kano was my real formative years, and I enjoyed it, yeah.
So how do you think that molded you as a person? Because I mean, in a very militant household, that would be quite disciplined. How do you think those skills actually translated into your young adulthood?
Okay, so I would say, for example, it was very competitive. So competitive, you know, my dad obviously a high achiever. My mothers were, you know, career women in a sense, because my mom was a nurse and subsequently she went on to study law. And, you know, my stepmom was a teacher. So they were professionals, but, you know, they were also at home because of the sort of profession that they had. But there was this sense of achievement where, you know, we were all on this track of, you know, go for it, you know, study, you know, the top courses, as it were. I ended up studying law, I guess because my dad was a lawyer. I loved English. I loved, you know, the whole concept of law and justice and all of that. But I think to a large extent, I was influenced by the fact that my dad was a lawyer and a judge and all of that. And in the end, we were 6 lawyers out of that family. So that's pretty significant. So that sense of accomplishment and that sense also of, I would say, the nationalism part in terms of, you know, being very proud of country and specifically also not having the sense of, you know, being from a particular part of Nigeria, because we lived in various parts of Nigeria. So there wasn't a sense that we were Igbo. We saw ourselves as Nigerians first. And even the whole concept of being Igbo was not I mean, I bring that up because now there's a consciousness of where we're from, which I think is somewhat sad.
Yes.
And obviously going to federal government colleges in those days, the whole idea was about federal government college, where it was like a melting pot of people from various parts of the country, Yorubas, Igbos, Efik, Ibibios, Nupe, wherever you were from, really didn't matter. It was that you were Nigerian and you met all these people. And so I ended up having friends from all parts of Nigeria, and you could pronounce literally till today. There's no Nigerian name that I can't pronounce just naturally.
I wish I could say the same. But I find it interesting because you were mentioning your dad was in the legal profession.
Yes, he
was. And you were actually called to the Nigerian bar and New York bar in 1991 and 1994 respectively. Now you practiced for almost 2 decades.
I did.
But when did you realize that a legal profession would be your focus?
So legal from, I would say, secondary school towards my A-levels, when I wanted to choose what course to study, I was really good with English, geography, literature, all the, sort of arty courses. And my dad was there as a model of, what you could do with art, courses as it were. So law was considered to be prestigious. It was considered to be a good foundation for literally anything. And so I was never going to be a doctor or an engineer or any of those other things, architect, accountant, because I just loved the languages, English, literature, all those things. And so law was just a natural fit for me. At the time, I wasn't trying to save the world. It was just, an attractive profession.
Yeah.
And, I felt that I could do, multiple things with it. And so I ended up studying law.
Now, obviously you excelled amazingly in that career.
Right.
And real estate was not really an industry that a lot of women actually occupied.
Yeah.
But you managed to carve out a niche as a mogul with your company, Fine and Country. Talk to me about how you made that transition from the legal world into the property industry, and really what was the vision for Fine and Country? Okay,
so I was practicing law, and I was also doing some consulting work in terms of, training lawyers of federal ministries of justice and the National Assembly and all of that. And at some point, I transited from practicing law to working for the Senate President at the time.
Wow.
As the special advisor on legal and constitutional matters. And I did that for close to 2 years. But at that time, I had started, what I would call the property bug, in the sense that on the side, I was reading these property books. And, I attended 1 or 2 real estate investment programs, purely from a personal investment point of view. And what I really liked about it was the fact that, when I did the first few transactions, I used quite a lot of my legal, background, the ability to analyze, negotiate, do due diligence, and, quite a few skills that are, at the heart of the legal profession. And on top of it, I liked the business side of it, where, for lawyers from the British legal system, you can't really market, do business development and all that. It's really about the law. But I saw that with real estate, I could bring in the creativity side, the marketing, business development, and those unique skills that as a lawyer didn't seem necessary at the time. Of course, now lawyers recognize that they have to have those skills in order to grow their businesses. But at that time, it wasn't, that obvious. So I got really tempted to, get into real estate, as a full-time business. But it was very difficult. It was a heart-wrenching decision because, real estate on the face of it is not as prestigious as saying I'm a lawyer, especially in a country, in an environment where the whole prestige, profession, all that stuff. But I had to overcome that and make a hard decision that, I was going to enjoy doing this. I was going to, essentially get into the business world and explore. It was essentially like coming into a really unknown terrain, but I was determined. And so what I did was to then embark on going to study professionally to do real estate. And so I went to Dubai, which, the Dubai real estate market at the time was very vibrant. So I went to the Dubai Real Estate Institute. I ended up doing the Oxford Real Estate program and quite a few real estate programs just to give myself the sense of competence, you know, to enhance my confidence in doing real estate. So with Fine and Country, incidentally, I signed up the Fine and Country license while I was recovering from breast cancer, really interestingly. You know, I'd known that I wanted to do real estate, but I didn't want to do it as, in Nigeria, in a sense, it appears to be an all-comers game. Anybody can introduce you to a property and that sort of thing. But with my background as a lawyer, especially, you know, not just the Nigerian bar, but also the New York bar. And so I viewed myself at a certain level, and I felt if I was going to do real estate, I wanted to do it on the platform of an international brand. And I wanted to be able to, as it were, use international standards to run this business. And so, fortunately, I saw this ad for, you know, a license with Fine and Country. And even though it wasn't for Nigeria, it was actually for a location in South Africa. I called them and said, this is my background, I'm a lawyer, I'm interested in real estate, I've been doing it really on a personal level. However, I have the background to actually build out this brand in West Africa. And they bought into it, they accepted, and I got some partners and we invested in the license. And I just thought, you know, come into the market and use the same foundation, the same standards that you would use to run a law firm, to then run this real estate firm. And that's what we've been doing for the last 12 years. And it's been incredibly, it's been an incredibly exciting journey. We've had some challenges, we've had loads of highs, also quite a few lows.
I actually want to go back into your journey.
Right, okay.
Because we were speaking earlier, and I know you were saying, you know, you're married.
Yes.
You had 2 children at the time.
3. Yes.
3. And at the age of 36, you found out you had breast cancer. Now this is as you're making the transition from the legal world into the property world.
Yes, that's correct,
Just talk to me about it. I'm trying to find the right word to say, to ask you, but I'm just like, just share with me your journey, because it was so powerful.
Yeah. Also at 36, like you said, I was making that transition, and I had, you know, taken time off from being a special advisor to the Senate president at the time, and looking to get into real estate fully, formally. And then I was on vacation and I found this lump in my right breast, and, you know, I went to get it checked out, and it turns out that, you know, it was cancerous. And of course that began a journey that you know, as you can imagine, dramatically changed my life. And, you know, but I was very fortunate in the sense that it was caught early. And I mean, eventually it was a stage 3 cancer. But that said, it was treated. I went through the whole motley collection of treatments, mastectomy, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, the whole thing. And it was a grueling experience, but I also feel very grateful and fortunate that I had incredible support from my husband, from my children. They were much younger at the time. But their memories of that season and that period was one of a very close-knit family, because I mean, nothing prepares you for something that could be life-threatening. No. And it just gives you an opportunity. For me, what it did was it gave me an opportunity to reflect more, you know, recognize the things that really matter, and also realize that you don't have all the time in the world, and that whatever little time you have, you should use it. You should really maximize the moment, you know. But and that's what I did, and I went through the treatment and tried to view it as an opportunity to actually renegotiate my life and sort of do a pivot. And honestly, you know, from that time, I can almost say I've had the best times of my life just from that experience. Fine and Country was birthed from that. The Inspired Women of Worth Network, which is a business and leadership lifestyle network, was also birthed from that, because I wanted to create this platform where I could, along with other women, as it were, share real life lessons and journeys in an authentic manner, so that women could see that, irrespective of what challenges life throws at us, that we could find opportunities within it to emerge, even stronger and more powerful than whatever challenges, So I guess in a sense you could say against all odds, I found my voice, found my sense of purpose, found myself, my sense of meaning and perspective became sharper.
Yes.
And all of that. And so I'm actually very grateful to have gone through that experience, believe it or not.
I think as a woman entering into the real estate property market, it's a big feat, because it's a very male-dominated space, but to also be recovering from such a life-changing experience.
Yes.
How did you manage to handle the impact of it on yourself, your emotional, mental state, and obviously that transition to now building a business in one of the most competitive spaces?
Right. Well, you see, for me, that experience and now using it as a leverage or a platform for running a business, it actually had quite an impact, in the sense that the way people view business is slightly different from the way I view it.
Yes.
So for me then, real estate as a business became a platform for self-expression, became a platform to, as it were, send a message, to the world. So you're running a business, and it's not about desperation, it's not just about need, but now it's an opportunity for you to use your business to shape and to shape the industry, because in a sense, for whatever you're doing, you're autographing, you're putting your autograph in that industry. And so it wasn't just about doing real estate and making money through it, but how can we elevate the standards in this industry? How can we get people who are operating at a particular level to do it better and operate better? And that's actually what led us to, it was something that I was very determined to get accomplished. And I'm really pleased that a couple years ago, we managed to get it through, where we've done this partnership. It's a collaboration between Fine and Country West Africa and the Lagos Business School, where we've set up this real estate leadership development program as a way of elevating the standards of the industry. So it's challenging. There's, it's a very male-dominated environment, but I found that, the language of excellence is universal.
Yes.
And it really doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. I've had loads of older guys in the industry approach me and say, oh my gosh, we don't know how you do it. And I just take that as a compliment. Like, you came into this industry and you literally, it's like you wrote new rules for the game. And I'm like, you know what? I've almost like come face to face with death. So coming into an industry that is dominated by, men or women or whoever doesn't really faze me, because I'm here for a purpose. And, if I'm focused on that purpose, then I'm not really distracted by who is on top or who is, on the side. I'm focused on my own vision. And, and that vision entails, helping to raise new leaders, a new generation of leaders through my business and also within the industry. And that's what I've really focused my, on the last few years.
And I actually noticed you are heavily invested in women leading in that excellence train. And you do a lot of work with young women through your organization, Women of Worth.
Yes.
And now this network how are you able to effectively shape the lives of all the women that do attend the conferences and the different leadership opportunities, using your experience as both a legal person and a property mogul? Right.
Well, the Inspired Women of Worth was founded in 2010, so about 10 years now. And it started as me, being the founder, but now we have, a group of incredible women with, whom I run the organization. And we basically leverage our strengths to help other women become better, do better, and have better. That's what we say. So we're really focused on, the concept of character, because we feel that when people develop their character, then they're more confident And, I like to say that, how people talk about, women being disadvantaged, and they talk about the wage gap and inequality and all that. I feel like there's a confidence gap, because most times women do not naturally project their competence as easily as men do. I mean, I even see it with my kids. My sons will take an exam and be like, Mom, I did fantastic. I'm going to ace it. And the girls will, take the same exam, do well, do even better than the guys, but they somehow feel they didn't do as well until the results come out. Right. So the focus for us is trying to get women, create a platform where we can get women to see that they have all it takes to excel, and that if they focus on these universal success principles of excellence, diligence, competence, those things, that they can compete, and in most cases actually outcompete the men. But then also learning emotional intelligence, because if you're not emotionally intelligent, you may have the competence, the technical competence, but then you're not at the table because you've not been able to navigate, to get to the level of leadership where we need to actually see more female role models in leadership roles. We need to see them.
I've noticed, as you said, even though you transitioned kind of midway in someone's career journey into real estate, you've managed to go from literally zero to a seat at every important table where a decision is made that will affect male and females. Now, what would be your advice for young women who are looking to not only emulate your success in business, but to be a voice of influence and power, because it's two totally different entities? How do women not only follow in your path, but be able to be a voice that makes a difference?
When you come into that place, when you recognize that you're not a zero, because nobody's a zero, everybody has relevance in the world. And so when you have and you find this personal power, this space where you know that your life is a message and that message matters to other people, then you begin to take that opportunity more seriously. You then see it as a responsibility to actually share, because the whole world is essentially waiting for you to make that difference, because there are people who, by you making a difference, by you speaking up, you're giving them permission to come into their own. And the more people will give permission to come into their own, I just feel like the world is a much better place. So to find that place of voice, you have to have clarity of vision, understand that you're here for a purpose, and that you can contribute good, no matter how small. And then you have to give voice to that vision. And then through that voice, you become more visible, and you have to be consistent about it. You can't show up one day and when you have a challenge at home or something happens with your kid or with your husband, then it's showing all over you and all of that. You have to get to the place where you transcend the challenges that life will bring. I mean, I've been through stuff, and yet you recognize that there's just so much more to be done beyond your personal challenges. And so you have to find a way of continuing to speak up and to demonstrate your values and make it visible, so that other people get the permission that they require to do their own lives better also.
I also love that you were mentioning about how after the experiences that you've encountered in your life, it made you appreciate your life differently, your whole perspective changed. What would you say as you sit here today, your purpose in life is?
Wow. I'm very clear that my purpose is to help other people see better. And by seeing better, I refer to gain a higher level of perspective concerning life. I feel like my purpose is to help people live a more confident and joyful life. So helping people, essentially, I guess you could say, help people to maximize their potential. Because I feel like everyone has this incredible potential, but sometimes the environment limits you, the challenges, the personal circumstances. And so I just feel like if I had no restrictions, no limitations, nothing was stopping me, and I was asked to do only one thing ever for the rest of my life, it would be to say to you, to say to the next person, to say to anybody, women, men, children, you can absolutely do it. You can do much more than you're currently doing. You have the power to do it. So basically, I like to say, go mega. You need to live a mega life. You need to live a life that you enjoy, a life where you're serving others, a life where you are giving the absolute best. one of my mentors, Dr. Miles Monroe, late Dr. Miles Monroe.
I love him.
Oh, you do? Yes, he's amazing. So he used to say, die empty.
Yes.
I flip that, and so my life message is live fully.
Beautiful.
Live fully, so I feel like my purpose in life is to help people live fully and do it in a way that they actually enjoy, and yet they're impacting the world.
I've really, when we were speaking of just about your life, your family, your business, you really do have a full life. But there's this elusive struggle that a lot of successful entrepreneurs have, which is that work-life balance.
Right.
How do you manage to achieve it?
Well, I guess in my case, I said earlier that I'm actually grateful for that journey with, my health challenge. Because when you've had that, then you're more protective of your well-being, of your, mental space, your physical, all of that stuff. So it's not negotiable for me to have a balance. I have to have a balance because I know that, the alternative to not having a balance is that you have, a life that could lead to disease, to stress in different areas of your life. So for me, a 360-degree life where you have a thriving family life, you have a thriving business, I believe it's possible, but you have to negotiate certain things. And so you have to be willing to leave certain things in certain seasons. So in a sense, you have to know what your priorities are.
I love that you mentioned that principle of seasons.
Yes.
What would you say the future holds? What season is coming next for you?
Oh, wow. For me, the next season really is a season for legacy. It's all about contribution. It's no longer about the pennies, the naira and the kobo, the dollars, the yens and the sterling. All that is great, and I have a structure to ensure that, that is happening. My business has to be profitable on a sustainable basis, but my full-on focus is what will I be remembered for? What do I want to contribute, to the world? Who is behind me that will say, as a result of this woman, I am better, I'm doing better, the world is better.
Udo is a keen writer, teacher, and internationally sought after speaker whose unique, authentic approach endears and connects her to any audience profile, with many testifying to being transformed by the practical principles learned through the multiple platforms she engages through. She is passionate about igniting excellence in the future generation.
I'm here for a purpose, and if I'm focused on that purpose, then I'm not really distracted by who is on top or who is, on the side. I'm focused on my own vision, and and that vision entails, helping to raise a new generation of leaders through my business and also within the industry.